Hi, welcome to Shaky Sports Journeys. Thanks for joining us. Interesting podcast ahead for you today. We are currently, as Muslims, in the month of Ramadan, which is fasting for 30 days, as well as kind of connecting spiritually, a cleanse of the body, appreciating what we have when there's a lot of people around the world who don't necessarily have clean water and food to eat. So it really does make you reflect in this blessed month. And I've got an interesting guest lined up. This person is not observing Ramadan. He's not a Muslim, but he has a very interesting story, and it's going to be interesting to kind of hear about it and the benefits of fasting. So my guest today is a gentleman called Mark Torrie. Now, Mark is a chap that I got connected with couple of years now when the podcast started, and he was very supportive of the podcast, and very interestingly he actually played a lot of cricket over in Scotland at a great cricket club, Strathmore, which I had the pleasure of being at last summer. Unfortunately we lost the final, but beautiful ground, beautiful place, nice club. So yeah, Mark, tell me a bit about hello, and tell me a bit about your previous life in Scotland and cricket.
Yeah, so I think I have to start by saying I do live in the US now. I've lived here. I'm 42. I came over as a 20-year-old, so it's like the turning point where most of my life's now been in the US, and will continue to do as I move forward. I'm from Forfar. As a young kid, I got roped into playing cricket, not really by choice, but Jackie Knight, who was a big influence on me, who was a phys ed teacher like myself, pulled me in off the streets, and I fell in love with it as about a 13-year-old. So my background is I have a bachelor's of science in exercise and movement science, and I've been a health and physical education teacher in the US for close to 20 years now. I have a master's degree in educational leadership, and I'm just completing a second master's in nutrition right now. My life in Scotland was awesome. It was brilliant, and like I said, I did play cricket. I was lucky enough, I guess, to be left-handed, and I represented Scotland at under 15s, under 16s, and under 19s before I immigrated to the States. So that was cricket. I don't know. It's funny because I feel like I went through a dark ages when I first moved to the States, and there was none of it on the TV. There was like a 10-year period where I didn't really know what was going on back home with that. But definitely with the growth of the game and the growth of the game over here, it was kind of last 5-10 years I've been more into it again and watching and so on. So it's been a good journey for me, Well,
I'll start by saying I'm happy to hear, even though it's been nearing 22 years since you've made the plunge to the Big Apple, you haven't lost your accent. So it has diluted a little bit, I think, but it's still there. So I'm proud of you for that. I can still hear that Forfar boy in your accent. But, I touched, very interesting background, Mark. I think it's amazing. I know you do, since getting to know you, you do a lot of coaching with football, with young kids. And I think it's, you're part of academies over there and things. So it's really impressive to see, and great that you've been able to get in touch with Scottish cricket a little bit more in recent times and kind of reminisce, but also amazing to hear that you played, 15s, 17s, 19s. You've got a really, really good background when it comes to cricket. And I know you were a first team cricketer for Strathmore as well. So, brilliant. And good that USA are now getting a bit more traction in cricket. Maybe one day there'll be an opportunity for you to perhaps get involved in some way as the game grows in the US. But today we're coming together to talk about fasting and the benefits of fasting. Now, I know you've got your own journey in this space. I've obviously touched on Ramadan and talked about, why Muslims fast during this period. But just in general, a question to you: what are the benefits of fasting?
So fasting is probably one of the oldest tools that we've used. Like if you read mainstream media and that, they'll say that fasting, intermittent fasting, all this, it's all this fad-based, it's new, blah, blah, blah. It's not. The reality is that human physiology has been set up to fast, to go through periods of feast and famine for probably 2.5 million years, So as Homo sapiens, we're about 200,000 to 300,000 years. But we've been fasting forever, you know, so our bodies are well adapted through the evolutionary process to handle going periods of time without food, going periods of time without water as well. And there's significant benefits to it. There's a phenomenal amount of benefits to it. Now, if we're talking about short-term fasting, you know, intermittent fasting, we're talking about, that's when people set up eating windows. So they might say, okay, I'm going to, for 16 hours of the day, I will not eat, and I'm going to eat in an 8-hour period, like from noon till 8 p.m. say. What it does is that what that 16 hours allows you to do, it allows you to eat your food, and then that 16-hour period without eating allows you to burn through the energy that you've taken in, burn through your stored energy, which is your glycogen stores that we store in our muscles, our liver, and so on. And then it allows us to burn body fat as well. Now, when anyone wants to lose weight, they only ever want to lose body fat. So fasting is a great tool for that. Short-term fasting is a great tool for that. There's other things that take place as well on a cellular level. So there's a thing called autophagy, which translates as self-cleaning or self-eating. So when your body goes into lipolysis, which is eating body fat, this wonderful thing called autophagy takes place. And it starts around about 14, 15 hours of fasting. So if you do a 16-hour fast per day, you get a couple of hours of that in there, where it takes damaged cells and it recycles them. It takes damaged mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell that gives us energy, and it recycles them. So in like Ramadan fasting, so are you eating one meal a day?
Probably all I can really, that's all I can probably really have. Once you have, I mean, when I eat at the fast opening time, my mind is telling me that I want to eat everything and anything, but you know, I have a piece of fruit, a couple of dates, some water, a reasonable sized meal, and I'm done. I can't really eat again. We obviously wake in the middle of the night just before the kind of fast begins again. So at the moment, around kind of 3:30 in the morning, I tend to have some Weetabix. Get as much water. It's more about the water between that period. But yeah, one meal a day, pretty much, along with maybe a breakfast.
All right. So when your fast is extended out, obviously autophagy takes place in greater amount. And so like Muslim countries have been shown to have lower cancer rates than Western countries. And scientists reckon it's because of the fasting that takes place, because it recycles early cancer cells and it gets rid of them, it purges the body of them prior to them taking hold. And therefore it's a great proactive strategy for weight loss. You're going to lose weight because your hormones are down, you're burning body fat, you're getting rid of the cancerous cells, your brain is clear, your clarity in your mind is, I have brilliant ideas when I fast. And last week, so I did it prior coming on. I know we're almost 10 days to go with Ramadan, and I did 1 week of dry fasting, which is without food and without water. So I ate 1 meal a day, and I went 24 hours, no water, no food. And people would think, oh, that's dangerous, it's crazy. So well, the science behind it is that fat is mostly stored in your body as hydrogen. So when you fast for periods of time without food and water, as long as it's not really super hot, and right now in New Jersey, it's about to get warm, but it's not yet. So what happens is, once you break down and burn the body fat, it releases hydrogen in your system, into your blood system. When you breathe in, it brings in oxygen, so that the hydrogen and the oxygen combine and creates metabolic water. So your body doesn't really, it's a bit of a fad that you need to drink water all day or you need to snack all day. And I think that's marketing from businesses that want to sell you bottles of water and they want to sell you food, you know? So for those one meal a day, but I've also experienced extended fasting too. So I have friends that I do a fasting group in January, and we start off the first week's 1 meal every 24 hours, second week's 1 meal every 36 hours, third week's 1 meal every 48 hours, and then the last week is 1 meal every 72 hours. Now we do take water and we take electrolytes, so it's like sodium, potassium, and that just to stop with muscle cramping and so on. But I've had this year, I think I had 25 guys in the group. Most guys lose between 20 and 30 pounds in the month. Wow. So it's a great start to the year, but also on the back end, the mental health aspect of it and the cancer purging and stuff like that. I think it's just for longevity, it's a great thing, you know, and it's something I enjoy doing. And, you know, I think my life's about service to others, like children and so on with sports. So for me to do this on the side is great, you know.
You've touched on, you know, the fasting group there. You've touched on, you know, I'm listening to you there, and I'm thinking, the first week sounds all right. The second week sounds all right. That third week of 72 hours, you know, knowing what I'm doing just now, I'm kind of thinking, whoa, that's tough. But will the body, am I right in saying the body by that point is kind of accepting to that because of the kind of first 2 weeks that you've gone through?
Sure, the body adapts, you know, like, so I think most people's problem is they eat too much sugar. So sugar causes spikes in blood glucose, which raises insulin levels. And when that comes down, it creates hormone imbalances in the body and tells you, you got to eat again. You're hungry, you know? So once you get through this, and I always tell people to go without carbs, just eat fat and protein. These are your two essential macronutrients. Once you get through the first week, because the first week's tough for sugar burners, once you get through that week, you're like, wait a minute, like, I'm actually not hungry, you know, and you can extend it out and you can build it out from there. But avoiding carbs is definitely, and when I say carbs, I do mean like, you know, vegetables and fruit or whatever they are, but really avoiding the starches, the rice, the grains, the breads, all the stuff, pasta that we love to eat, but I'm not so sure it's necessarily that good for us.
What made you start this journey? You've been, I mean, I follow you on Instagram, so I keep up to date with some of your posts, and obviously you've been on a bit of a journey. When did this start? And how have you, you know, your physical well-being, your mental well-being? I can see from some of the pictures you're putting up, you know, you're looking pretty ripped, you're looking in good condition. So what started all this?
So it's probably 4.5 years ago now. Prior to that, I weighed about 40 pounds more. So I weigh 178 pounds, give or take. I think that's like 12 stone, like low 12s. I was probably about 40 pounds heavier than this. And if I had clothes on that, you didn't see it. I didn't really bother. You didn't notice it so much. And I was just like, I played football in college. And then after there, it's just the stories we tell ourselves to make it feel okay, you know. And I had two major issues. I had severe pain in my wrists and in my elbows, so much so that if I had to shake hands with someone, like the pain would shoot up into my biceps and into my oxters, your armpits, and it went on for about 2 or 3 years. I thought I had golfer's elbow. I thought I had and it went from this arm into my left arm and then back, and it was in both. And it was like 2 or 3 year period when this went on. And also my stomach was, my stomach's bad. If I have dairy, I'm going to be struggling. If I have gluten, I'm going to struggle. I have a peanut allergy that I've always had, just this food intolerance. So I went on a crazy 40-day diet through a doctor. I ate 500 to 600 calories a day. I got rid of alcohol, coffee. I got rid of all fat, all carbs, apart from some vegetables. And I was eating 600 calories a day for 40 days. And I lost the 40 pounds in those 40 days. But what I noticed was within 2 weeks, all my pain was gone. I couldn't believe it. So I realized it was from inflammation in my body, that from the eating the carbs, the sugar, probably alcohol too, and getting rid of it, it dropped off. Now the weight was going down daily, and that kept me motivated to go on, but I was hungry. And what I did was I condensed my eating window into 4 hours. So I ate at noon, and I finished school at 3:15. I ate at 3:15 or 3:20. So I was done by 4. And when I got out the end of it, I realized it was the fasting that was the key, and the fasting that was the tool to make sure that I never gain weight again. And I haven't gained weight for 4.5 years. I still stay the same. You know, I might go up to like 180 pounds, 181, 182, but I it's a 5 pound range that, and I don't care. I don't step on the scales. I feel good. My stomach feels good. My mind is much better. I'm much more clear. But that's the fasting, I think, is the tool that really helped me keep this all on track and make it easy for me, you know. So it really is.
I mean, you can see in your physical appearance just now. Yeah,
I look sleepy. It's early in the morning here. Like I'm in school right now, but we're not supposed to be in for another hour or not. So I woke up early for this.
Obviously, we had to get the timings to match each
Yeah,
other.
I know.
It was taking some back and forth, but I mean, I can tell from your posts and everything, your physical appearance, your well-being. You talk a lot about how much energy you have. You're managing to go to the gym. You know, I know you've got young kids as well, so that's not always easy. But you clearly have this new lease of life, new lease of energy that's come through your journey. What would you recommend this to people? And if so, how often would you recommend it? Does it need to become just part of life? Because I think some people would trap themselves if you just said, like, this is the, like, you know, you do mention, we do, and I mean, I love Italian food. I love my pastas. I'm not going to lie. If that was just to be something I didn't have altogether, some people maybe are into maybe doing it, but then having the little cheat day.
Right.
You know, what would you recommend to anyone listening to this if they were going to consider kind of having a bit of a life change?
So, you know, like mentally, so we talk about mental, like our brains a lot and mental health and stuff. So when you spike blood glucose, you spike insulin. Insulin's a growth hormone. So when you spike insulin, you cannot burn body fat. It's impossible. It switches it off. The more sugar you eat, the more insulin you secrete. Now, your body's really smart, and insulin effectively is like a key. It unlocks the cells that lets the sugar in for energy. But it'll only let in so much. It won't glycate. It won't over sugar your cells, and especially your brain. So it'll switch on. It won't allow it to come in. Now, it'll sacrifice your red blood cells. So your body's saying, okay, I have all this blood glucose. My pancreas needs to secrete insulin to open this up, but it's not doing it. So it just keeps on pumping insulin. And this is what's called insulin resistance. And this is the driver of all Western disease, all autoimmune diseases, insulin resistance, Alzheimer's, cancer, you name it, doesn't matter what it is. It's all driven by this mechanism. With the brain, it will not allow your brain to become glycated because of the damage that sugar does long term. So your brain's 2% your body weight. It's 20% of your energy. It needs 20% of your energy. So if your insulin levels are high and your brain can't get the energy that it needs to power your body, you become depressed, anxiety, all these mental health issues that we experience in the West are driven by this. So if you want to go to just from a mental health point of view, you lower your insulin levels. Ketones are your body's nutrient source when you don't have blood glucose, and that's from stored body fat. And the brain loves ketones. So all of a sudden, your mitochondria in your brain, your powerhouse of your cells in your brain are firing. And that's why people, I think last year there was a lad, maybe on the Scottish cricket team, that was fasting during Ramadan, and people couldn't believe the success he was having on the field. But I believe that. I'm like, I can really understand why, because he's really physiologically in tune with his body and his mind is clear and so on. There's so many benefits to it. So back to your question of like, would I recommend this? I certainly would, but you have to understand one, women and men are different. It's harder for women to lose weight than it is for males to lose weight. It's really easy for us. That's why I think our wives all hate us. It's really simple. It really is. So I would start, if this was I would start off with changing my diet and looking for lower carb alternatives. Now, I would go with like an 80-20 rule. So if 80% of the time I'm going to eat low carb, 20% of the time I'll eat desserts and and you'll see if we went out to dinner, you'd be like, geez, Mark, you're eating a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I don't care. It doesn't matter, you know. But by doing that, you prepare your body. And then I would start to say, okay, I'm going to skip breakfast on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday this week. And I'm just going to monitor my weight over a week. I'm not going to monitor it daily. I'm going to monitor it over a week and change it from there and say, okay, now I don't feel so hungry. Maybe I'm going to skip breakfast all week. Or maybe I like to eat breakfast, I like to eat lunch. I'm going to skip my evening meal. And I'm just going to extend out the fast. And I'm going to play around with it. Some days I won't fast for more than 12 hours. Some days I'll go 24 hours. And I just kind of keep the body guessing. So, but I think the important part is it's an N=1 experiment. You're your own experiment. What works for you might not work for me. And you kind of have to play around with it and see what happens, see how you feel, and just building and have the confidence that it's not about perfection, it's about curiosity. And my reason that my whys are big, this pain in my elbows now, I don't want to come back. And my stomach is so bad that I lie there, I don't know if I need to go to the bathroom, I can't sleep, it just affects my life so poorly that it's a big enough reason not to go back to the way that I used to eat. So.
Well, it's been fascinating to kind of get more of that scientific background from you. You obviously have studied a lot of this stuff, so you're not just coming from a random place of not knowing how it works and how the body works. I mean, listening to you has been really interesting. But from my point of view, observing Ramadan, I went into Ramadan this year, and I was overweight. Winter in Scotland is never a good time for me. I always find that that's a bad period, to have the kind of energy or want to do anything. You look out the window, it takes willpower to get out there or go to the gym or do stuff. So I tend to probably not have, but if I watch my diet a bit better during those periods, I would actually be all right. But I probably am guilty of not doing that as well. So I've already had, 2.5 to almost 3 weeks now of Ramadan. And I feel so much better. I feel lighter on my, movement wise. Yeah. I feel lighter. I feel like my energy levels are, I'm fasting right now, and I feel, you have peaks and troughs. There are some stages sometimes where, the tummy starts rumbling, but it definitely feels like it's like a real detox. I really feel the benefits of it. But this time, as I get older now, I'm 38 now, going to be 39 this year. I'm now planning to kind of just watch the diet a little bit more, because when I was in my 20s, I was that active in sport that I kind of ate what I wanted, and I always kind of managed to maintain it. As you get older, it gets harder. So for me, I don't think I would go to as you say, everyone's different. I might not go to the extent of what you've gone in your journey. But I think just watching the diet and cutting out certain things that you talk about makes a massive difference to your physical and your mental well-being. And anyone that listens to this, it might be something that kind of kickstarts their journey. And I don't think we all need to go to maybe what your fasting group to that level. It sounds like the impact it's had on these people has been incredible. But maybe you can build it up and gradually get to those points. And I think people would find that they would have a great effect in their life, because so many people say to me during this month, so you're going to, the one question you always get is, so no water, nil by mouth, nothing.
Right.
Oh, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. No way. But you surprise yourself. You can do it. And you would probably see the benefits.
You also like your wife's not, she's not Muslim, right?
No.
So she's on her own plan as well. So I think if there's people around you that are doing the same thing, it's much easier. But people always say, I could never do that. My joke, especially to the women at work here, is always like, you're not as pathetic as you think you are. And I'm just joking.
Wife, for instance, you mentioned my wife, she does intermittent fasting. Right. She throughout the year. So she's something that's kind of part of her life.
Sure. So, but a couple of things you mentioned though, like people, if we went out to dinner and people ate a whole pizza by themselves, people wouldn't say boo about that. If I choose not to eat breakfast, that people think I'm insane. It's where we are, and I'm like, he just ate a whole pie by himself, and you think that's fine, and me not eating is like a crime. But it's also like your winter months in Scotland. The problem is your vitamin D levels will be extremely low because there's no sunlight. The body needs sunlight. So if you can't afford to get winter getaways and escapes and that, like your vitamin D levels are low, which is a fat-soluble vitamin, which has many effects on the body. And energy is one of it. The mitochondria is powered by vitamin D from the sun. So that's why in the summer months, it's much, people feel better. They're outside more. They're
100%.
connected
You
with
see it in
nature.
Scotland. You see it in Scotland.
Oh,
The difference,
people
look so much happier.
Yeah. So that would be maybe a supplement I would maybe looking at taking if I was back home. But if I was back home in Scotland right now, if I moved home, I would fast. I'd probably go back to enjoy and maybe try and play a little bit of cricket. I haven't played in 22 years, so I feel like it's an unfinished story. But I left before I really even knew if I was going to be good or not. But I would encourage the club to, if I look at Strathmore now, Strathy's got quite a lot of Muslim members now, and I would encourage a bit of brotherhood through Ramadan. And it wouldn't have to be for, the white Scots. It wouldn't have to be full on. I would probably do it full on, but this is kind of where I am. But just to learn more about it, and like you said, they're going to lose weight. It's pre-season. You're going to lose weight. You're going to feel better. It's just going to make you more curious about your own body and your own journey and what you've been taught, or what you think you know about it. It's just it's a great opportunity for reflection and, again, just to go on your own little journey. And it doesn't have to be a whole hog. It can be little by little. But when you do see the benefits, if it leads to more curiosity, then great, Been
really interesting, Mark. Really, really interesting to listen to you. I'll probably listen back to this myself so I can pick out some of the points that you've made. But there's been a lot of interesting things in there, and I'm sure anyone that views this podcast will hopefully take something away from it and maybe choose to make some changes in their own lifestyle. Summer is coming. Cricket season is round the corner. I'm certainly kind of glad Ramadan has fallen before it and not in the middle of it, because I can now go into the cricket season knowing that, one, I don't need to fast during that time, but if I maintain it, I've certainly go into it in a bit more physical and mental well-being. So it is interesting, maybe a wee kind of 10-day period for cricket clubs pre-season to kind of go on a wee journey and see the benefits that happen. Some people will probably respond to this and say, behave yourself, I'm not doing it, I love my food too much, and that's fine. But it certainly does have benefits. Interesting for me and you to come together and talk about this, because obviously I do it from being a Muslim point of view, and Ramadan, you're doing it for lifestyle choice, throughout the year. And it's obviously great to hear as well that you're having an impact on other males and female adults around you who have had the benefits from it. And it's just been good to chat to you. This has been a long podcast in the making, so I just want to say thank you very much for your patience and for giving me your time today.
No, thanks for having me on. Thanks for getting me to wake up early as well. It's good. I've got a little bit of time before the kids and the rest of the staff come in as well, but I'll go and do some other stuff and get the body moving, and I'll be ready for them coming in. But thanks, you. I appreciate your time. All the best for the rest of Ramadan. All the best for the upcoming cricket season. Keep the faith. Everything good will come. So
appreciate it, mate. I appreciate it. Appreciate that a lot. And yeah, hopefully we see you back here soon at some point, and you can get a wee trundle. I believe you're a medium pacer, aren't you?
No, I was left-arm spinner.
Left-arm spinner. Okay.
Yeah.
Listen, there's always a place. It's always a place at Edinburgh South. We're looking for a left-arm spinner. If it's not Strathmore, you're welcome to come and join us for a season.
I get 22 years of cobwebs and everything to bust.
We can get that out. We can get that out. We can train that. Just need to turn the arm over, get through the pain a wee bit, and I'm sure that'll be back before you know it, mate.
I'll be fine leg both ends,
Good to chat, Mark.
All right, cheers. Thank you.